Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I continue to work on Glenn's reels. Glenn sent these in from Alaska. And well, today we're going to work on a lever drag, smaller format Daiwa reel. This is the Daiwa Saltist. It's the lever drag LD30. And it's a nice reel overall. I put it through the test. It seems to be working fine. So what we will do is we will show you how to take the reel apart, how to service it, how to keep it fishing. One of the things I did note with a lot of the reels that Glenn has sent in is that there is a lot of salt buildup. You can see it here. That's a weep hole for the reel, and it's clogged with salt. And while the last one I did for him, we had a two-speed button here that was caked with salt on the inside. So we'll show you how to take this one apart, and we're going to begin by taking the exterior pieces and parts off. And one of the things I want to encourage you to do right away is take pictures, because it's really easy to invert some of these pieces when you go to reinstall, have some questions about them, wonder which way they go. And well, starting off taking pictures helps. For example, this is our two-speed button, which is sticking. It's not coming in. That should stick and release. So my guess is we're going to see a lot of salt there. But notice when you reinstall, that button is going to be on the handle. It's very easy to flip this around and have that button sitting outside of that handle, but that's where this one will go. Yeah, this one is probably having a little bit of trouble. My guess is that we're full of salt inside that one as well, but we'll see. So take pictures and take the reel apart. So the first one is probably the hardest piece on this whole reel to take off. It's going to be the handle. It's going to have an assembly on here that's got a little frame inside of it, and it's got a release spring inside of it, and you need to be very careful as you take that release spring out, because if it shoots, well, one, you're going to have to find it, which isn't always easy, and two, if you have to reorder it, it's not very easy either. So my advice to you is just be careful as you remove this first piece. If you like these types of videos, if you like to see how fishing reels are serviced and repaired, if you like to learn a little bit more about those reels, then I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use that notification button. It'll let you know when I am posting. The two screws are out. This is a little cap. Well, actually, it's very clean. It's interestingly enough. So it may just be that it's sluggish because it's not having any oil. That's the spring I was referring to. You need to be careful with that. And well, it's going to be removed by removing this metal piece here. I'm going to keep my finger on the cap here. It kind of slides up and out. And sometimes it's easier to just lever the spring up first. So this is the spring. And when I take that spring off, I put it into my parts tray. I've already put the two screws in there, and I put them in there because it's an easy place to find them when it's time to reinstall. Good place for a picture here. That's the facing to it. That bend in that metal plate is the cavity where that spring goes. And then we should be able to lift the trim ring off and the other piece off. And this is what I was saying, this piece can load this way if you wanted to, and that's going to leave the tail hanging out over here, and that's why I said note earlier that your orientation is on the handle. With that aside now, there's a little lever here. That's the piece that's going to move that in and out. We want to remove that. That's a 12mm nut. Break it and then remove it by hand. It's going to enable us to remove the handle. Notice the plunger piece inside. It's held in by a C-clip, so it shouldn't explode, but just know those pieces are there. And also note that there's pieces inside the gear here. There's a spring and some other pieces. Here's a spring, and you may want to remove that and put that on. Let's do that. We're going to remove that long spring. We're going to put that onto the plunger assembly so that we don't lose that. Or we'll put it next to it. It can't go on it. There's a little stop there. And then there's an adjuster below if you needed to adjust. I'm going to remove the cap. That's going to leave this side of the reel clear. Now that's a bearing, and there is a plastic bearing shield there as well. Next up, I'm going to remove the lever assembly. You're going to remove the preset knob. Unscrew that counterclockwise. There's a spring inside that knob. Another good place to take a picture. There's a preset ratchet here, and then there's the preset lever itself. So those can go in their own little section of the box. And now we're ready to remove the outer ring. When you look at this now, you'll see that we have flathead screws there. Always check the back, make sure that there aren't any screws attaching to it on that point. And as I was saying, the reel's been flushed, you can feel that, but there's also sand underneath this lever. So let's call this one a salty Saltist. Let's take the screws out. When I remove these screws, I like to put them onto my table, make sure that they're all the same size. And let's put a towel under here just in case some stuff comes out of here that we might want to keep off of our desk. The Daiwa Saltist line is a very nice line. This one would compete against a Penn Squall or a Penn Fathom. And well, it's a nice reel overall. I guess it would also compete to some extent with the Avets or the Accurate reels. This is the third. And then what I'm doing here and putting them on the table is making sure that all of those side plate screws are the same. It's easy to assume that they're the same, and then that'll get you in trouble. In this case, it looks like they're the same, but well, we won't know until we get this last one out. And they are the same, so we can take those and put those over into that corner of the tray again. And that side plate should come off now. Take a picture when you open up the side plate now. You can see the double gears, the pressure plate, and then the internal workings of the spool itself. We're going to remove the spool. You really don't need to do anything with the case. The case is a single frame case. The only thing I recommend you do is to clean it. I'm going to use a kitchen scrubby with a little bit of rod and reel cleaner on it. The rod and reel cleaner is a Penn rod and reel cleaner product. And it's good for dissolving some of the built-up salts and the like. And I can see that there's a little bit of sand inside that cavity. So I'm just going to use this paper towel while I have it. See if I can't wipe that off and off camera there, if you will, blow it out. If you have an air gun, I guess that's another way to do it. I don't have the air gun, so we're going to do it just the old simple mouth-to-mouth, if you will. And what I like to do on these braided reels, or any reels for that matter, is to try and wrap these. This one seems to have a little tangle in it here. I want to wrap these up, and I want to put a rubber band around them. That'll make reinstalling it a little bit easier, as you have to clear the sidewall in the case. It's got a lot of line on this one. This is not a level wind reel, so you just want to be careful. These lines tend to get in the way when it comes time to reinstall and go through the ring of the case here. I took off the spring. Underneath the spring there is a small bearing shield. I'm just going to lay these right on my table here because we're going to put them right back. And then there's 3 screws on the back side of this reel. You want to remove those to get at the other bearing in the assembly. And what you're doing with your service is you're taking the reel apart, you're inspecting all the pieces and parts, you're cleaning up the debris, and then you're reinstalling the pieces and parts with fresh oil and lubrication. Just going to have these fall onto my paper towel here. That actually kind of blunts the fall so those screws don't bounce very far. And these I'm going to put into my parts tray just because they're so small, so easy to lose them, that I don't even want to put them on my desk and risk the issue there. All right, I'm going to use my stem to knock out the other bearing. These are shielded, not sealed bearings. You notice on the bottom of the bearing now there's another one of those small washers. So you have top and bottom washer. I'm going to oil that bearing. And remove the other bearing. You can check it, put it between the two. I've tested the reel. The testing of the reel says it was working fine. And then you have 3 tension washers. They're belled. They go on a curve, and you can alternate those to your liking. They are to provide tension on that lever drag itself. Take your main bearing or your back bearing, put that in after you've cleaned it. We can reinstall that into the case. And then line up your back end post here to the holes. Go get those small screws and reinstall that. When you're working on the reel, the best way to do this is work in sub-assemblies. Don't take the whole reel apart and then figure out which one you're going to work on. If you have a sub-assembly, complete the work on that sub-assembly. So you'll see in the frame here, I've left all of the gears in that intact as I went to do the work on the spool. But the more pieces you take apart, the more confused it can become. So work in small bites. And it doesn't matter if you start with the gear side or if you start with the spool side. Both have to be serviced and should be serviced as part of your routine. All right, tighten that one down. There's one more. And we'll put that front bearing on. And we'll go on about our business. We noted that this bearing here has that small washer that's the back seal. Then the bearing goes on. Then that front seal washer, that small one, goes on. And then the spring goes on. So that's what's come off of this. Take a look at your drag washer. You need to see the cross hatching in the washer. So this has got some old dirt and grease in there. All I'm going to do is a fresh pull through of this. Make sure that the cross hatching is good. This one is. It doesn't need any additional service. Split your pin on the back equally. Well, in this case, you want to move it off to the side so that it matches the hole inside the cavity. Line it up and set it in. Probably pushed it through a little bit too much, or not enough. There we go. We're in on that. I'm just checking to make sure that the line did not get trapped in the side plate on either side. And I'm just going to set that off to the side for a moment while we go and deal with the main gear and the pressure plate. We can remove the pressure plate now. This one's always fun to reset. There's a bearing inside the pressure plate, so make sure that you oil that. One of the clicks from the inside over here just fell out. Notice that there's 2 of those. I'm just going to put that into the tray just in case. That makes noise when it comes out. We've just spilled out our main gear assembly. So while I have this all together, I'm going to use that same cleaning cloth here to clean up the outer case of this reel. Test your main bearing. It's working fine. Oil that one as well. Then we can clean out the case's interior. You can see we've got a lot of old grease and dirt in there. Just going to grab another paper towel, wipe that down. And this looks probably like it's the original grease. I'm not sure if this reel's been serviced or not. This is your anti-reverse dog. I'll show you how to reset that for effectiveness. I'm just going to use a little bit of penetrating oil here to cut that remaining grease. Q-tip to kind of get in that little section there. Come back and grab another fresh paper towel. And we're good to go with that. Okay, that takes care of the base side of this. And we can start by reassembling some of this now. The first thing I want to put in is the pinion gear. I'm going to check this one, make sure that all of the teeth are clean. They are, and that they're not damaged in any regard. Then we're going to use some fishing reel grease. I'm using Penn Precision Reel Grease for this. And I use an artist's brush to put that grease on. And we can set that in place. That goes into the side case. Going to put our pinion gear in first. Same thing, check the pieces. We can post that in. And that's going to seat in here. Just like that. We can seat that into the main bearing. And then we have the issue here with your anti-reverse click ratchet. Now the click ratchet will be facing in this direction. When you go to put this in, you want to slide it between the teeth, like that. And then you want to center it, and this is always a painful process. We're going to have to put the main gear back in first, but we'll show you that again with the main gear in, but that's how you're going to slide that over and out. Take a look at the main gear. You want to do the same thing. Make sure that they're all clean. No need to remove those gears. It's a 2-speed reel, but no need to remove those. Just make sure they're all clean. We have a back bearing here. I'm going to go ahead and move that bearing. With the teeth clear, you're going to make sure that both the high and the low gear have a good amount of grease on them. You don't have to get the grease on every tooth. Okay, we're set up on that one. We can bring the main gear in now. I guess we got ahead of ourselves there. Put the main gear in. Bring your bearing in from this side. And if you like, if we find that we're having trouble with the install on this, we'll go back and put the handle back on this side. Okay, the square side goes on this. Guess we can take both out to get that right. There's two sides on this gear. One of them has a square that's going to fit in the smaller gear. This can go in now. There we go. Make sure it's fully seated. And then as we were talking about before, take this now. The points are facing this way. Go ahead and slide that in under the tail here, the fingers. And now what you want to do on this is you need to square this. This is always kind of a great fishing trick by itself. Square the lines here parallel with the internal lines there, because you have to match the square on the back, and it takes some time sometimes. Other times you get it on the first shot and you just amaze yourself, and I think we just got it on the first shot. We did. That's just because there's years of experience there, I guess. But note it that it's not always going to line up exact. If it doesn't line up exact, just keep resetting that internal square, and eventually that will work. The inside of your pressure plate is clean. We've oiled and lubed everything here. We can put a light coat of grease on the axle shaft there. And keep it balanced, because if that pops out, well, you're back to square one, right? All right, in goes that. You need to set this so that the case lines up. That looks to be the lineup. This is a weep hole here. I guess before you do anything, make sure your spool is turning. It's turning beautifully. And then let's go get those 4 small screws that we took out, and we noted they're all the same size, so it doesn't matter what side goes where. And I noticed there's salt buildup on one, so I'm just going to put a little bit of penetrating oil there to dissolve that salt while we put the others in. I like to go high-low or north-south, east-west as I do this. The first one's always the hard one for me because you're using your hands as a clamp, and I like to use my hands to steady the path of the screw. So I like to use my thumb there, for example, hold the driver. All right, so we've got north-south. Now we'll go east-west. That keeps equal tension on the wheel itself, so you don't bind the side plate. We'll do this here. Oops, that one fell out. Just be patient. There's no awards given for fast. You need to finish right, not first. Okay, that one more. Overall, this is a nice reel. It's very competitive with the offerings from Penn and Shimano. Make sure that they're tight. Both vibrations will shake these screws loose if they're not tight. Again, give it a spin. Well, that's spinning a whole lot nicer in free spool than it was before. That's great. And well, let's go back and load the free spool adjuster now. Now this is in 2 pieces here, but it's kept together, so we're going to leave it together. And when you go to set this up, you want to set it up over in the free spool. That's what you want to align for. There's a hex shape on this case. There's a hex shape here, and I almost forgot that little rocket plunger that's going to make that noise. So that one goes back in this hole here. That's another value of having that parts tray. You'll find those pieces when the time comes. Those are going to hit those little dimples in here and make a noise as you're loading your reel. Bring this all the way over to match the inset. Clear the bump. You want to match the case to the inset. Next will be the spring and our preset adjuster. And you always want to do this to match that as close to the free spool position as you can. There's a ramp inside, and that ramp is what's going to go into free spool. All right, tighten it down a little bit. You just heard that click, so that's a good indication we're pretty much started. Bring it into free spool, make sure that you're spinning, and then bring it over. Well, we haven't adjusted enough. Come back to free spool, adjust it down a little more. Free spool, and needs more adjustment. Free spool. And now when you're stopping, that's telling you that the drag is starting to engage. Bring it over. We're going to leave it there for now until we put the handle on, because I'm not certain exactly where we are with the tension. All right, that spring that came out goes in now. And then we need to reset this handle assembly, which is always the fun part of the deal. Next up is the handle. That also has that hex. Before I put that handle on, there's a little bit of salt buildup here. So I'm going to just use that rod and wheel cleaner to get rid of that. Again, match that to the handle itself. And we can bring our plunger in. Oops, that was an oops. That was an oops. I make oopses. We have our trim ring that goes on. That's another value to that parts tray. You'll see if you've got all your pieces and parts in or not. If you recognize something in the tray that should have been done somewhere else, or better yet, if you don't recognize it, well, it's time to stop. Go get a schematic or go back to your pictures and try to figure it out before you do it. Okay, before we do anything more, I'm just going to take a test fit on the cap to make sure that that's going to line up. I guess more importantly, it's this one. And again, we're going to have that button. It's going to face the inside. So this button is going to line up. It's going to line up. Well, let's put it on and see how it's going to line up. It should be opposite. There you go. So that's how your button is going to line up. And here's what you need to check. You need to make sure that you have the clearance for those two mounting screws in there. And what this is saying is I'm just going to miss a little bit. I need to just, oops, that's another oops. Gee. Tighten it just a little bit more. Now I think I have it. Yep, I have that. Next up then is to take this piece, place that in, and it should drop down now just like that. And then we're going to have that little fun moment here, putting that spring in. Just checking the details here, making sure that it's going to operate the way that it should. This goes in before. I should have made a note on that. I thought it went in easy. Again, go back to your pictures if you're kind of wondering about that. This is what I needed to put in. I remembered that when I had it, this had a little hook that I had to clear, and I wasn't finding the hook. Now we can put the other piece over, let it fall in, and align that hook now with the switch here. And that's what's going to trip this back when we fully load. Let's take that spring. This is kind of nerve time now because, well, this is not easy to do in compressing the spring and not shooting it. And if you're not paying attention, you will shoot it into the next zip code. I think I got it. Take a look. It's always nerve-wracking, but we're going to pull this up and take a chance. We do have this loaded properly. You can see it's seated the way it should. Now I take a deep breath and run for the cover. All right, I'm going to line that cover up with those two screw holes. I'm going to use my pick to make sure we're lined up. There's only two screws left in the case here, so I guess we've put them all back. So it'll just be time to give it a ride and give it a test. As soon as I get the one in, I can start breathing again. All right. That's done. The other one comes out now. So we've done an awful lot so far. We've completely disassembled this reel. We've showed you how to load that anti-reverse dog, which is always painful. We've showed you how to line this 2-speed trip switch. Okay, let's review. So I noticed my camera had stopped for a battery issue. I am hopeful that we got that last part here about loading the spring in and showing you how to do that. If not, I apologize immensely for that. All right, the handle is on. The 2-speed adjuster button is in. What have we done? We've completely taken the reel apart. We removed the spool. We showed you how to gain access to both of the bearings on the side, how to oil them, the sequence of the washers and the bearings. We reinstalled that spool. We went over to the gear side. We removed the internal pieces, the 2 gears, the dog and click ratchet above, the pinion gears, the pressure plate, and the like that go on to the spool to provide that content. We showed you how to adjust the lever drag. You're in free spool. Now you have a lockdown for first strike, and you have a lockdown for second strike and max drag. We showed you how to reset the double pin. At least I hope we did. I hope we didn't lose that when that battery went dead on me. But now let's give it a test. In gear now, well, that's real easy. Now you just push the button in and you have the gear loaded, and this trip switch should just pop it right back. It does. Beautiful. We're in free spool, first strike. Boy, that turns nice and free and easy now. Max drag, hold, or tight. This reel is ready to go fishing again. Look at the spin on that spool now versus the spin when we started this. A little cleaning and oiling and maintenance will make this reel go a long way. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. That's the Daiwa Saltist. It's the LD30. In high gear, you're running at 6.3 to 1. In low gear, you're bringing up Davy Jones' locker at a nice 3.1 to 1 speed. And, well, this one's ready to go fishing again. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. To our first responders, our police, fire, rescue, EMTs, and the like, thank you for your dedication to public service and your day in and day out work that you do. To everyone, well, this is an example of a lever drag reel that's meant to go fishing. Whatever tackle it is that you're using, take care of it, keep it maintained on a regular basis, and of course, take it fishing. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.